The Obama administration, they've relaxed their birth control regulations for Catholic institutions, so they don't have to pay for people, their employees, to get birth control, right? The way they've done it is, they say, okay, if you're a Catholic institution, first of all, they used to have a very narrow view of what was considered a religious institution.
Right.
Now they've relaxed that, right? So it can cover a lot of other things.
And it's also very, I mean, you know, to be on their side a little bit, describing that, and there's such vagaries about how you describe what a faith-based organization is. You know, the same way we do it for tax-exempt status.
Correct.
So I always found that curious too. How can you legislate that?
So what happened though was that it seems like Obama just, because the health insurance companies want to provide birth control because it saves them money, right? It costs them more money if you get pregnant than if they give you birth control, right? So what is basically, it seems what has happened, and correct me if you read this differently, what has happened is that if you can be considered a religious institution and you say, I have an objection to providing contraception on a religious basis, then you don't have to pay for it, but your female employee also doesn't have to pay for it, that the insurance company will just give it to them somehow for free. It's going to no copay involved, and they don't have to pay for their birth control.
Which means that they haven't figured it out. You know, that's the problem. It means that they don't have what the measures in place to make sure that this can be enforced and enforced fairly. They don't really know the answer there. But when you look at, you know, the coverage of contraception, you're basically saying we're covering a decline in unwanted pregnancies. We're covering a decline in teen pregnancies. We are avoiding the other quagmire of abortion that we can get into, which so offends those faith-based organizations. So I think that there's an entirely different argument that comes up when you read that.
Are you surprised by any? I mean, that's not surprising that they make contraception available to teenagers and unwanted pregnancies go down. Is that surprising to anybody?
Well, you know, with the Catholic Church, it's dogmatic. In Midwestern cities like Ohio and other places in America, it's just unseemly to talk about. So this idea of providing that kind of thing is an intrusion.
But don't you think, Brian, I mean, yes, traditionally you're right.
You know what I mean?
The Midwest, Ohio, those parts of the country, the Bible Belt in the South, don't you think that unseemliness is overplayed now? I mean, don't you think that has waned considerably?
Well, since HBO, since everyone has HBO now, you mean?
Yeah, well, yes, exactly.
And R-rated movies, and our favorite shows are The Sopranos and stuff like that. Yes, I don't understand. These people who still get offended at talking about birth control, who are still against birth control, for Christ's sake. These people who are against Sandra Fluke, it's like, what world do you live in?
It's also cheapened what is offensive, because there are things that are still offensive and can be offensive, and things that you wouldn't want your children to see, etc. But why are the same people that are so in favor of these companies that are able to show Viagra ads during NFL games, you know, the same people that are coming around?
My friend Liz Winstead does all this work for Planned Parenthood, and I listen to her stories from the road and just how under attack these clinics are nationwide, and in some of these rural towns, and you know, in some of these traditional conservative local cultures where the agencies are just under a deluge of like attack. And I don't know if it's because Planned Parenthood is so closely tied to abortion, or in their minds, or it is a contraception issue, or it is an intrusiveness or something, but they're fighting for their lives out there.
I agree.
You know?
Well, especially in Mississippi, they
have one abortion clinic left. One clinic I shouldn't call it an abortion clinic. It is a family planning clinic. There is one. And it is, they're on the verge of extinction right now. And the doctors who fly in to service that clinic fly in from Washington and Chicago to service it. They're there for a moment and then they return.